Welcome back to my channel Knowledge Chronicle.
We all know that plants produce oxygen through photosynthesis, but did you know that they also breathe, just like us? Yes, plants respire, break down food, and produce energy. But there's a lot more happening inside their cells than you might think. Today, we're diving deep into the amphibolic nature of the respiratory pathway and uncovering the fascinating concept of the respiratory quotient, or RQ. Get ready to explore the hidden mechanisms that keep plants alive and thriving. What is the amphibolic pathway? Let's start with a simple question. Is respiration just a breakdown process? Traditionally, respiration was seen as a catabolic process, meaning it only breaks down food for energy. And yes, it does that. But there's more to the story. The respiratory pathway doesn't just break molecules, it also creates them. This is why we call it an amphibolic pathway, a process that involves both. Catabolism, or breakdown, is where glucose, fats, and proteins break down to release energy. Anabolism, or synthesis, is where the same pathway provides raw materials to build essential compounds. How different molecules enter the respiratory pathway. Not just glucose, but fats and proteins can also be used to generate energy. However, they do not enter the pathway at the same step. Let's break it down. Carbohydrates, or glucose, are the primary fuel for cellular respiration. They are broken down into glucose, which then undergoes glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and the electron transport chain to produce ATP. The reaction of glucose and oxygen produces carbon dioxide, water, and energy in the form of ATP. The chemical equation is glucose plus oxygen yields carbon dioxide, water, and energy. Or more precisely, CCH12O6 plus 6O2 yields 6CO2 plus 6H2O plus energy, which is ATP. Fats act as a high-energy backup. They are broken down into fatty acids and glycerol. The fatty acids are converted into acetyl-CoA, while glycerol enters the pathway as PGL or phosphoglyceraldehyde. Alright, let's dive into an example of fatty acid breakdown. Here we have tripalmitin combining with oxygen to produce carbon dioxide, water, and energy. So, the reaction looks like this. Tripalmitin plus oxygen yields carbon dioxide, water, and energy. To be more specific, the chemical equation for this reaction is as follows. C51H98O6 plus 72O2 results in 51CO2, 49H2O, and energy. Now let's talk about proteins as the last resort energy source. Proteins are broken down into amino acids. After deamination, which is the removal of amino groups, they enter the Krebs cycle at different points. This process ensures that even when other energy sources are scarce, our bodies can still produce the energy needed to function. Example reaction. Amino acid plus oxygen yields carbon dioxide, ammonia, and energy. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. The same intermediates used for energy production are also used for biosynthesis. For example, acetyl-CoA, when broken down, releases energy, but when needed, it can also be used to make fatty acids. Similarly, intermediates from the Krebs cycle help in the synthesis of amino acids. So, respiration is not just about breaking things down, it also helps in building new molecules, and that's why we call it an amphibolic pathway. What is the respiratory quotient, or RQ? Now let's talk about an important ratio in respiration, the respiratory quotient, or RQ. Simply put, RQ is the ratio of the volume of carbon dioxide released to the volume of oxygen consumed during respiration. The formula to calculate RQ is RQ equals the volume of carbon dioxide released divided by the volume of oxygen consumed. But why does this ratio matter? Because it helps us understand what kind of food a plant or any organism is using for respiration. RQ for different substrates. Carbohydrates have an RQ value of 1. When glucose, which is C6H12O6, is used as a substrate, equal amounts of oxygen are consumed and carbon dioxide is released. Reaction. Since both oxygen and carbon dioxide have the same volume in this reaction, the RQ is 1. Fats have an RQ that is less than 1. Fats require more oxygen for complete oxidation, meaning they release less carbon dioxide per oxygen consumed. Example, C51H98O6 plus 72. O2 yields 51 CO2 plus 49 H2O plus energy. Since the oxygen consumed is much higher than the carbon dioxide released, the RQ is around 0.7. Proteins have an RQ of approximately 0.9. Proteins have an RQ slightly less than 1 because they release slightly less carbon dioxide per oxygen used. Reaction amino acid plus oxygen yields carbon dioxide, ammonia, and energy. Since the oxygen consumption is a bit higher than carbon dioxide production, the respiratory quotient, or RQ, is around 0.8 to 0.9. Why is RQ important? First, it tells us which type of food is being broken down. It helps in agricultural studies, since scientists can determine whether a plant is using carbohydrates, fats, or proteins as an energy source. It is used in metabolic studies as RQ is different for aerobic and anaerobic conditions. The incredible efficiency of plant respiration. Plants might seem simple, but their respiration is an incredibly complex and efficient system. The amphibolic pathway shows how plants break down and build molecules simultaneously. The respiratory quotient, or RQ, helps us understand what fuel plants use for respiration. And now you know, plants don't just photosynthesize, they also breathe, break down, and build molecules just like we do. If you found this information fascinating, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more amazing science content your way. See you in the next video.